Hey there. I want to talk to you about something that's been weighing on my heart. It's about the silent spaces we create in the name of love, the gaps we force between ourselves and someone we care about, hoping it will somehow bring them closer. Specifically, I want to talk about the strategy of no contact when you're in a relationship, or have been in one, with someone who has an avoidant attachment style. Now, I know this is a deeply personal and often painful topic. If you're considering this, or have tried it, you're probably coming from a place of profound hurt and frustration. You've likely given so much, tried so hard, and felt your efforts vanish into a sort of emotional void. You've read the advice, heard the success stories, and thought, maybe if I just step away completely, they'll finally see what they're missing. They'll feel the emptiness I've been feeling and come back, ready to change. Your intention isn't to manipulate. It's to survive, to protect your heart, and maybe, just maybe, to finally be seen. I need you to know that I see you. I hear the quiet desperation behind that strategy. And from my perspective, both as a therapist and as someone who walks with people through these exact heartaches every single day, I want to gently, compassionately explain why that very strategy, born from such a valid place of pain, can sometimes act like a lock instead of a key. It can sometimes backfire, not because your love isn't real or your pain isn't valid, but because of the unique and often misunderstood wiring of the avoidant heart. Imagine for a moment that love, for an avoidant individual, feels less like a warm, safe harbor and more like a wide, open ocean. It's beautiful and compelling, but it's also vast, deep, and utterly terrifying. Their deepest fear isn't always of being alone, it's of being swallowed whole, of losing themselves, of being anchored to the bottom of that ocean without an escape route. Their sense of safety is paradoxically tied to knowing the life raft is nearby. It's not that they don't want the ocean, they need to know they can occasionally touch the shore on their own terms. Now, when you initiate a strict, strategic no-contact rule, not because you need space to heal for yourself, but as a tactic to influence their behavior, what you're essentially doing from their perspective is not creating a loving silence for them to miss you in, but suddenly and without warning, pulling the ocean away entirely. You're not giving them space, you're replicating the very abandonment and rejection their entire nervous system is built to guard against. The message they receive isn't, "I miss you and I hope you realize my worth." The message decoded by their protective mechanisms is, "See? I was right. Love is conditional. Connection is unreliable. The moment I fail to meet a need, the person I care about vanishes." It confirms their deepest, often unconscious, belief that they are ultimately alone. Let's talk about control, because this is where the dynamic gets really tricky. So often, the non-avoidant partner initiates a breakup and no contact from a place of feeling powerless. You feel you've tried everything. Talking, pleading, loving harder, nothing seems to spark the change you desperately need to see. So you make the ultimate power move, you leave. You take control of the one thing you can, your presence. The intention is to shock the system, to create a crisis that forces a breakthrough. But from the avoidance vantage point, this doesn't feel like a crisis leading to breakthrough, it feels like an ultimatum. It feels like control. And nothing, and I mean nothing, makes an avoidant person's walls shoot up faster than the feeling of being controlled or coerced. Their entire life's work has been about maintaining autonomy and self-protection. So when they perceive your actions as an attempt to force their hand, to punish them into changing, their response isn't going to be yearning, it's going to be a quiet, firm, and often final retreat. They will think, if this is what love requires, meeting demands under threat of abandonment, then maybe I was never cut out for it. They may even feel a sense of righteous indignation. You're allowed to have your boundaries and leave, but when I need space to process, it's considered a failure? It feels unfair, and it breeds resentment, not reconciliation. I want to tell you about a couple I worked with, let's call them Sarah and Mark. Sarah was anxious, Mark was avoidant. They loved each other deeply, but their dance was one of constant pursuit and retreat. Sarah felt starved for reassurance. Mark felt suffocated by the demand for it. In a moment of ultimate frustration, after what felt like the 1,000th conversation about commitment that went nowhere, Sarah did it. She broke up with him. She told him she couldn't do it anymore, and then she enacted a strict no-contact rule, believing that finally, her absence would make his heart grow fonder. What happened in that silence? Sarah was in agony, waiting for her phone to light up with his realization. Mark, however, wasn't pining. He was first shocked, then hurt, and then relieved. The pressure was off. The demand to be what he felt he couldn't be had vanished. And then that relief curdled into resentment. She gave up on us, he told me. She didn't even want to work on it, she just left. She thinks I'm a project to be fixed, not a person to be loved. His love for her didn't vanish, it was buried under a layer of hurt and a reinforced belief that he was right to be guarded. By the time Sarah reached out months later, hoping to find a changed man, she found a man who had used that time not to miss her, but to successfully convince himself he was better off alone. The strategy designed to bring him closer had permanently sealed his exit. This is the backfire. It's not that avoidants don't feel loss, they do, profoundly. But their primary response to perceived threat isn't to move toward the threat, it's to move away from it. Strategic no contact is often perceived not as an invitation, but as the ultimate threat. There's another layer here, and it's about the story we tell ourselves about change. We have this cultural fantasy that space and silence are the great catalysts for transformation. We think, if I remove myself, they will hit bottom, have an epiphany, and arise anew. But real, lasting change, the kind that builds a healthy, secure relationship, rarely happens in isolation. It doesn't blossom in a vacuum of silence, it's forged in the messy, uncomfortable, beautiful fires of connection. It happens in the moments of awkward conversation, in the brave, vulnerable sharing of fears, in the difficult, patient work of building trust brick by brick. When you use no contact as a strategy, what you're often creating is a cycle of novelty, not depth. You break up, you go silent, you come back together. The reunion feels amazing, it's passionate, it's intense, it feels like a new beginning. But you haven't built any new tools. You haven't practiced conflict resolution. You haven't learned how to navigate the underlying fears. You've just reset the clock. And soon, the same patterns emerge because the root hasn't been touched. You create an on-again, off-again roller coaster that is exhausting for both of you and ultimately prevents the very growth you're hoping for. So what's the alternative? If not strategic silence, then what? It's not about having no boundaries. It's not about tolerating disrespect or waiting around forever. It's about shifting the goal from getting them to come back to building a relationship worth coming back to. It's about courageous communication. Instead of saying, change or I'll leave, which is an ultimatum, you could try, I love you, and I am struggling with this distance between us. My need for connection is feeling unmet, and it's hurting me. Can we talk about what's happening for you? I want to understand. This is an invitation, not a demand. It's about differentiating between space and silence. Space can be negotiated and agreed upon. I feel like we're both reactive right now. Can we take 3 days to calm our nervous systems and then talk on Thursday night? That is a space that feels respectful and safe. Slamming the door with no explanation is a silence that feels punishing and scary. It's about focusing on your own healing. The most powerful thing you can do is not to manipulate their behavior, but to become more secure yourself. When you work on your own anxiety, on your self-worth, on your life outside the relationship, you change the entire dynamic. You stop emitting the energy of desperation that can trigger their avoidance, and you start emitting the energy of a whole, complete person. That is incredibly attractive, and most importantly, it is incredibly safe. A secure person is not a threat, they are a harbor. And even the most avoidant soul is drawn, slowly and cautiously, to a safe harbor. This path is harder. It requires immense vulnerability, a strength that is quiet and steady, and the terrifying risk of stating your needs without a guarantee they will be met. It may not work. They may still be unable to meet you there. But this way, you know you acted with integrity, with love, and with a commitment to health, not to strategy. You didn't play a game, you honored the sacredness of the connection, even if the other person couldn't finally hold it with you. If the relationship is meant to be, it will find its way not through punishment and absence, but through understanding, safety, and mutually built trust. That is the only foundation that lasts. So please, be gentle with your heart. Honor your pain. But consider that the most powerful way to draw love closer is not to shut the door and wait, but to learn, however terrifying it may be, how to hold it open with strength, grace, and an unwavering commitment to a love that is truly free.